Go. How's everybody getting along today? Hope you're having a good day. As I said earlier, I'm running a bit late. Trying to find us on TikTok here. Yeah, I've been blessed with a lot of orders over the weekend, and I've been trying to get caught up on those. But I thought I've got to make a bow for one of them anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with you guys today while we're here. Oh, from North Dakota. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Sheila. There's Kimberly. Ida. Let me see who else here. Hey, Nancy. How are you? Yeah, it looks like YouTube's up now too. So like I said, I've been running crazy today. I've been trying to get caught up on orders that you guys have blessed me with. I really appreciate it. That's why I'm running late. But I need, for one of the orders, I need to make a bow to go with this cutie right here. And you may have seen me make this wreath live. It's a adorable kind of a gray owl. He's kind of small. I think he's 7 inches, but on the smallish side, but it makes a really cute wreath. And I've got an order to do another one of those. So I'm going to make the bow for that. And I I'm always asked the question, how do I know what size bow to make? And I tell you, the way I do it, just depending on what your other elements of the wreath are going to look like, size-wise. I mean, if you've got a large attachment, you're going to want to make a large bow to balance that out on your final design. But I got this guy. I'm going to be making it on a 16-inch wreath base. And the way I determine, I just try it on, just like you're going to try on a pair of jeans. I bring my bow over, or my ribbon. This is going to be my main ribbon, this gorgeous gray plaid flannel ribbon. And I just bring it over here. I already know on this wreath it's going to be a 6-inch bow, but I want to show you how I do it. I just get my tail, and I always leave my tail a little bit longer than what I think I'm going to need. And I just bring it over here. I double up a loop like this. Got my ribbon twisted, sorry. I just bring it up here. I've got my little piece here. And I think, okay, well, that looks pretty reasonable. And of course, I'm going to be adding lots of other things too, but I think that's an appropriate size bow loop, considering I've got my 7-inch owl here. I've got my 16-inch wreath frame. And, if this was a 18-inch and I've got a 20-inch owl, then I'm going to need a bigger bow, right? So that's the way I do it. And like I said, that's a really common question I get asked, but you just can't answer it just, black and white. It's not, this size wreath needs this size of bow, because, our elements are going to vary, and, there's a lot of factors to take into effect. But let me see how big this bow loop is right here. See, I guessed. There's 20 inches, there's 26. 6 inches. I've done this a time or two. Can you tell? So anyway, we did the Pro Bow last week, so I thought let's go ahead and do this on the Easy Bow Maker. And if you're not familiar with the Easy Bow Maker, if you are pretty green at making bows, this is probably the easiest way, I think, to teach somebody. I mean, even hand making, I think that's fairly straightforward, but still there's a learning curve, I think, to it, and a lot of practice. But this is a little bit more controlled. But and you can get these. I've got them linked at shopliketeri.com. You can get them on Amazon. I don't know if Hobby Lobby has it. I don't think they do. I don't know if Michael's has it. We don't have a Michael's close. So anyway, we're going to be making our bow right here in the center between these two larger pegs. and the loops are going to come out on either side. And people always ask me about this little peg here. This one I've never used. It's for little baby, like infant bows. Um, and then right here's your spool holder where you're going to put your ribbon. And then again, this is the center of the bow. On either side, it's got the inches marked off for you, all the way down to an 8-inch bow loop. And really, that's about as big as a bow that I've made, and that was for a humongous tree, a tree topper. You have to remember that the larger your bow loops are going to be, the more stiff your ribbon has to be, because the longer that gets out here, this ribbon, it's a nice quality ribbon for a 6-inch bow loop, or maybe a 7-inch, maybe. That's probably about as far as I would go. But look how droopy that gets whenever I get all the way out here to 8 inches. And it's just not, I mean, you can fluff it all you want, but it's not gonna, it's too much weight on it. So that's another thing you want to consider. So I'm gonna look here and see who all's here. Hey, Barbara, how are you? Thank you for being here. Hey, Kim. Oh, you love your Easy Bow Maker, Barbara? Yes. Kimberly, I've never used that. She's asking about the Bow Dabra. I have only used that. I use that to hold my mesh when I'm doing some like measured ruffle type wreaths. I might use that to hold a bunch of mesh. But this is very similar. Plus, it has, I think it's a little bit more stable. It's kind of the same concept, but there's no place to hold your ribbon either, which makes a big difference. So, looks like somebody's cutting in and out. You might try coming out. Is anybody else having trouble with the audio? Hey, Liz, neighbor there from Illinois. Welcome. All right, let me look on TikTok. Now, we're going to get started here in a second, but do know that once I start the bow making, go ahead and ask any questions in the comments. I'll look up after I get done making the bow, but if I try to do it while I'm making the bow, I always get sidetracked. So, all right, so I already know I need about a 16-inch bow loop, or bow tail. So what I'm going to do, we've got a right side and a wrong side to this ribbon. If you can see the difference, has the snow on the front here. And so I want the top of it, or the good side, to be facing me. And I'm going to measure out about a 16-inch bow tail. So we've got 8 inches over here. We've got 8 inches over here. I'm going to take this. Now this is going to be where my bow center is going to start, right? Right here. Now I'm going to take that. The good side is going away from me. I'm going to put it down there vertically, and I'm going to twist it as I go down. A complete 180 twist. So the good side, so to speak, that's going to be looking at me here on the tail. And right now I'm going to be seeing the wrong side of the ribbon here, because I need to bring it back. I need to double it over. If I didn't twist it, I'd have the wrong side of the ribbon showing on my bow loop. Okay. Now this particular wreath that I'm making is going to have the first 2 ribbons. We're going to have 3 loops. I don't know what that is there. Let me cut that out here. It's like they just got some thread caught in their ribbon. Well, can't really see it from the outside, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. But anyway, we're going to make 3 loops of each of the first 2 ribbons, and then the last one we're going to make 1 loop on either side. All right, now, as I said, I want about a 6-inch bow loop. So I'm going to come over here at 6 inches, and I'm going to hold my finger there just to mark it. I'm going to put that down that peg again. Good side is facing away from me again. And again, this is the center of the bow. I'm going to twist it as I go down and push it down. Now, I've got the wrong side facing up at me. Oh, I forgot to put my ribbon. No wonder. I forgot to put my ribbon on the holder here. Get it over there. But why isn't that cooperating? All right, now I'm going to come over here on 6 again. I'm going to hold my thumb. I'm going to put it down. Good side is facing away from me. I'm going to twist it. I'm going to push it down. Okay, and it's important to make sure you push that down tight because you want your bow center tight. That's going to help those bow loops, excuse me, that's going to help those bow loops kind of pop open. All right, now, as I said, I wanted 3 loops, so we've already got 2. Now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to make another loop on this side. I do not have to twist it because I've already got the good side facing me, right? So I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to measure it against my other bow loop since I already have one. And right here's the peg. Now I'm going to pinch it. Just make a nice pleat there. And I'm going to sit it down in there, down my pegs. And again, I'm pushing it down. All right, now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to measure my tail comparable to the other one. And since I'm putting this on a wreath, I typically won't finish my bow tails until I'm done with the wreath, or pretty close to done with the wreath. So we won't do that right now. But this ribbon has enough body. You'll hear me tell you sometimes the ribbon you can't dovetail because it's just going to curl on itself if it's a kind of a flimsy ribbon. This one's stiff enough that I usually do dovetail this one. Okay, so now we're ready for our next ribbon. Now this one we're going to start on the other side. As I said, I wanted 3 loops of the bottom 2. And so I'm going to put 2 loops of the gray flannel over here, and then I'm going to put 2 loops of this solid gray on this side. And when I put the ribbon on the spool, you like to have the ribbon kind of coming off and away from you. That way it'll stay out of your way. Now, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to compare my tails. Just kind of make them about the same length. And again, this one's a little bit awkward because we're starting out a little bit different. But I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm going to bring this down, good sides facing away. Push it down. And I'm going to make this bow loop just about the same length. So I can just use this other loop here and measure it again. I'm going to put my ribbon down, good sides facing away. Twist, push it down. And when you twist, make sure that you've got the ribbon twisted all the way. You don't want part of the ribbon still, facing the wrong way. Okay, now we're going to come over here. I'm going to find my 6 right there. Good sides facing away. Push or twist and push it down. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to compare it to this other loop. And again, I'm just making 3 loops here. If I add, on this particular wreath, if I add the 4th loop, it's a little bit large. So, and I'll explain more why I've come up with this technique here in a second. But so now I don't need to twist this. This is the last loop. I'm going to pinch it. I'm just going to set it down in there. Okay, so now we've got our first 2 layers done. I'm going to cut off my tail about the same length as my other. Go ahead and get our bow loops all situated here. And I like the Easy Bow Maker because you can look down right now, and if you don't like your bow, you can always go ahead and make changes if you need to. So, all right, now I'm going to come back with this 2.5-inch ribbon. Again, I'm going to put it on the spool with the good, with the ribbon coming off away from me. Now this one I'm going to make 1 loop on either side, and I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller. I want to try to kind of close in that bow center. And oh, we got a seam right here that's going to be on my tail. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And that is just part of ribbon making. You'll come across that every now and then, where they've got a couple of pieces that, you know, the ran out of the spool and they glued it together. And sometimes you can just hide that. Like if it was closer to the bow center, I could just use that for my bow center, but I just had that much left over, so it wasn't going to work. So, all right, so let's get our tail again here. And this one's going to be quite a bit shorter. I'm going to make it about 2 inches shorter. And right here is the center of my bow. I'm going to drop that down, good sides facing away. Go down vertically, twist it all the way. Now those bow loops were about 6 inches. This one I'm going to make about 4 inches. And this is a tip. A lot of times you can't, you know, by the time you start getting a lot of ribbon on here and you can't see really your marks, you can always move your ribbon out of the way. But if you're working on a cutting mat, just line up your marks with your ruler on your Easy Bow and you can tell where you need to go. Now, I can look down here right now. I can see, you know, there's 6, there's 5, and there's 4. So that's about where I need to put my bow loop. And I'm going to hold my finger here at the pegs, drop it down, good sides going away from me, twist. We're just going to make 1 loop on either side of this. And I've got a lot of ribbon now, so it's starting to kind of drift upwards. So I'm just kind of holding my finger there just to keep it, you know, from wiggling around. All right, I come over here. I've got 6 inches, 5 inches, 4 inches, right about right there. I'm going to pinch it. And when I'm pinching it, I'm wanting the ends of it tucked under. If you can see that. See that how the edges are tucked under? The right side of the ribbon is still visible, even in the pleat. You don't want it to, you know, when you're pleating it, you don't want, here's say this is a good side, you don't want this going on. You don't want something like that, because then your bow loop's not going to sit right. All right, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to cut my other tail. All right, so that's all I'm doing with this bow. So we've got 3 of each on the bottom 2 levels and 1 of the ribbon in the middle here. Now, again, I'm going to be putting this on a wreath. So usually if I don't have a real bulky ribbon, I'm just going to use a pipe cleaner. And I'm just going to pull this up. Now, another option too, you can always put a zip tie underneath of it and, you know, attach it that way. I don't need to do that with this particular ribbon. So I'm just going to lift this up. I'm going to get all my ribbon loops, make sure I pulled all of them up off the board slowly. All right, got that right there. Drop that right over the center. And then I'm going to tighten it, but not real tight, just enough to where I've got it secured. Get that out of the way. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to drop that there. And get my loops all spread out here. Get my tails going the right direction. If I'm happy with it, now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm kind of squeezing that. I'm just going to tighten it one more time. I don't want a big stalk on it. I wanted this pretty close, because, you know, if you put a big long stalk on it by twisting it a bunch of times, you're not going to get your bow tied up against your wreath or whatever you're using it on, and then it's going to be floppy. So there's my bow for my sweet owl wreath. They'll go together. And I told you I was going to show you why I did develop the 3-loop deal. Here's our wreath here. And I just like to kind of close, you know, if I put 4 in here, to me it looks off balanced. It's going to be too big, number one. It just looked off balance if I do that on especially a smaller wreath. I like that it kind of, those big loops kind of help your eye kind of travel that circle around the wreath. And it might be just made up in my mind, but that's why I do it that way. And then it gives a little bit more room here for our character. So, okay. All right, I'm going to look through here and see if I have any questions. Oh, thank you guys for all the follows. I appreciate it. And the shares. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Where can you get the bow maker? I've got it on, it's linked, if you go to my bio, there's a link. It says Shop Like Terry, or you may have to go to my link tree first, but it's shoplikterry.com. That's Terry with 1 R. And I've got it linked there. You can also get them on Amazon. Lori's wanting to know, have I ever made one for the top of a tree? Yes, I've been on a tree topper frenzy here the last couple of days. Yes, I make several bow topper type bows. Some of them are dressed up, some of them are just a bow. Just depends on the person's taste. Oh, thank you. Do I sell bows? Yes, I do. Psychic Norelli, Norel, I can't hardly see. I do. I've got an Etsy shop, and it's also linked in my bio. What about a huge wreath for outside above a garage? Yes, I have. Well, not above a garage, but we've got large wreaths on our home, and yes, I do make bows for those also. For those, you've got to make sure you've got a really stiff ribbon. Sometimes it works better if you make 2 bows and put them together instead of trying to make humongous loops. It depends on how good your ribbon is. So, Michael's wanting to know, was this bow handmade? No, this bow we use the Easy Bow Maker today. I do make handmade bows also, but I try to rotate what style we're making. So, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Not a machine. I just use I use this board, the Easy Bow Maker today. That's what we did it on. Like I said, we try to do different variety or different methods to teach everybody. So, because what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. We all have our favorites. Okay. All right. Let me check on Facebook here. Hey, Valerie. Thank you, Barbara. I do too. Oh, Kim says she loves this time. You love the time change? Oh, man. I about messed up yesterday. I'm going to bring you guys up. I feel like I'm not talking to you straight on. But, yeah, yesterday, you know, the dog, you know how they have their own internal clocks. And yesterday I was down here messing around, and he started just bugging me, would not leave me alone. And I didn't realize that it was almost dark outside, and he knew it was time. So, excuse my mess, or that's all my packing stuff. I've been packing orders today. All right, hey Sharon, let me see if there's any more questions here. Yeah, 4 o'clock. That's right, Jean. Liz is wanting to know, do I recommend the Easy Bow Maker or the Pro Bow? And it just depends. Personally, I prefer the Pro Bow better, just because that's what I used first. Before I could even figure out how to do handmade bows, I learned on the Pro Bow. There is a learning curve to it, though, and a lot of people get impatient and give up. It took me about 3 days of practicing, like a lot of practice, before I felt comfortable with it. But still today, I'll make bows all different ways. I'll make them just depending on what I'm doing. When I'm making a wreath, I prefer to make it, I don't know why, but I prefer to make it by hand. If I'm making bows that I need a lot of, them to be pretty close and very similar, in shape and size, I'll make it on the Pro bow because it's a little bit more exact, and I think it makes really a pretty bow. Um, then on the easy bow makers, if I'm in a hurry, like today, I knew I needed a certain size ribbon or a certain size bow loop. Um, I just went ahead and used the easy bow maker. It's just because it's easy. So, all right, let me look and see if there's any other questions. Oh, Catherine, if you're hurting your hands with a handmade bow, um, I mean, I can say this from experience because I've got bad arthritis and I've got contractures in both my hands. Um, Usually, it's because you're pinching the ribbon too hard. If you and it depends on where you're holding the ribbon too. If you move your ribbon, like if you watch some of my handmade bow tutorials, if you watch, I've got the ribbon starting to drift back toward the meat of my hand, and I'm not holding it very tight. Just enough pressure just so it doesn't come out of my hand. Um, Now, if I make a whole bunch of bows for days, my hands do get sore. Don't get me wrong. But it's been my experience that's most times when people have sore hands or got a death grip on it, or they're trying to hold it out here on the tips of their fingers, and that won't work. You need to let it drift back here at the back of your hand. Just kind of relax your hand a little bit. So try that, Catherine, and see if it doesn't help with you. Because I know for myself, I can make a handmade bow way faster than I can make one on a maker. So. Okay, I don't see any more questions there. Hey, Kay, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're neighbors too. Got lots of neighbors. Wisconsin, Ohio, Illinois. All right, let me see over here. Hey, Teresa. Barbara's got warm and sunny Georgia. It's decent here today. It's like in the 60s. Sunny, that kind of thing, but I still like it a little bit warmer myself. So, um, what width of ribbon would I recommend for the extra large bows for big wreaths? I use 4-inch bow or 4-inch ribbon. I usually mix that because my 4-inch ribbons are usually expensive ribbons, and I usually will just make one or one loop on either side, or I might do a 3-loop like what we did today. But I usually don't use it for my whole entire bow because, like I said, it's usually pretty expensive ribbon. But yeah, on a big wreath or an extra large wreath, yes, they do have 6-inch ribbon also, but either a 4 or 6-inch would be what I'd use as my base, and then I'd put other ribbons in to fill as needed. So. Have such a hard time making them. I always end up buying the ugly, stiff plastic ones. Um, it just takes practice. It really does. And I can't say that I'm perfect every time either. I mean, you can ask anybody who's followed me for a while. You'll see I have some doozies, and I'll start over. Um, or sometimes I just have a blonde moment and forget where I was. But yeah, it just takes practice and patience, a lot of patience. So don't get frustrated. It's really rewarding when you can make your own things and make them, personalize them using your own colors, your own style, that kind of thing. There's a lot of reward to that. And plus, I have to say, if you're a seller, bows sell really well. I used to have a craft booth here at a local mall, and my bows, somebody told me to put bows in them. I'm like, yeah, right. So I did. And those were far and away my best seller. And same way on Etsy. So, and even some wreath makers might buy bows, even if they can still make a bow themselves. What happens is sometimes people have a certain design that they're needing, but they don't want to buy a whole roll of ribbon. They're just going to use it this one time. They just need that bow for that one thing. Why not, instead of buying all the ribbon to go in it, why not just buy that bow? So Oh, Sherry, you got 40 years of bow experience. Good for you. Good deal. It is very rewarding, like I said, and I think everybody can do it. You just got to find your own technique. Arthritic bow maker works. Yes, easy peasy. Used to be a florist. That's my dream job, you guys. You know that. I'm one of these days. I love working with flowers. All right, let me see if I got any other questions. Did I get more goodies? No. Those are I've been making orders, and the empty boxes are from stuff I've used the end of it. I finally am making some headway on using up some of my supplies I've had forever. And those are empty boxes from that plus packing orders. So yeah, it looks like a mess back there. That's my trash to go upstairs. And you can see all my packing stuff over there. Okay. All right, guys. That's all I have time for today. I really appreciate you being here. And I need to get back to work. And then you guys that are in the group, remember we've got wreath critiques today at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So I'll see you there. So thank you guys so much for being here. Do check out boxmybow.com. I've got a sale going on just today, just on Tuesdays. And maybe you can find some goodies there. So, okay. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.